Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name is Amy. I am an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the NIV, and we are in the book of 2 Samuel. We are in chapter 18, and we are marching ourselves along the story of David. We are nowhere near the end of the story of David, so we're just going to keep right on going. Absalom's death. So it's the first of, well, really the second of David's children that we've seen this happen. No, actually the third. Come to think of it, because first there was the baby with Bathsheba, who was born but didn't live, and then there was the rapey kid, and who Absalom killed, and now there's Absalom. Absalom's death. David mustered the men who were with him and appointed over them commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. David sent the troops out, a third under the command of Joab, a third under Joab's brother Abishai, son of Zeruiah, Zeruiah, and a third under Ittai, Ittai, the Gittite. Gittite. The king told the troops, I myself will surely march out with you. But the men said, you must not go out. If we are forced to flee, they won't care about us. Even if half of us die, they won't care. But you are worth 10,000 of us. So two Hebrew manuscripts, and the Septuagint and the Vulgate, and some other Hebrew manuscripts care, but there are 10,000 like us. It would be better now for you to give us support from the city. The king answered, I will do whatever seems best to you. I gotta tell you, anytime we come across that in the Bible with do whatever you think is best, or I will do whatever you think is best, very rarely, unless it is literally they are somebody that specifically they just went and talked to God, you can see them prophesying, whatever it might be like that. It's almost never a good idea. So every time that shows up, even when I know how the story goes, I can't help it. I just sort of go, ooh. So the king stood beside the gate while all the men marched out in units of hundreds and of thousands. The king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake. And all the troops heard the king giving orders concerning Absalom to each of the commanders. The army marched into the field of fight of Israel, and the battle took place in the forest of Ephraim. There the army of Israel was defeated by David's men, and the casualties that day were great, 20,000 men. The battle spread out over the whole countryside, and the forest claimed more lives that day than the sword. Wow. So they were running into things in the forest, like maybe spiky trees and brambles and maybe falling. I don't know what they could be. Now Absalom happened to meet David's men. He was riding a mule, and as the mule went under the thick branches of a large oak, Absalom's head caught in the tree. He was left hanging in mid-air while the mule he was riding kept going. Now, I know you're like, what? So his hair was really long. A lot of these, especially if they were, remember, all of David's sons were considered like priests, which is what the Levites are supposed to be. And the only way you can do that is to become a Nazirite, which involves, like Samson, not cutting your hair. So he was riding around and he's trying to escape, and he's on the back of a donkey, and his fro got caught in the bramble, and the donkey kept going, and he just slid right off the donkey. It's like he tried to duck under something, and he didn't duck low enough. Not a problem we usually think of a man having, but easily people with wave, because this is just more like wavy, not really like curly, super curly haired people. They're going to know what that means. They're going to know what's up with that. It's one bad, humidity day away from getting caught in a bramble if you were on the back of a donkey. That's a whole new hair level day now, isn't it? When one of the men saw this, he told Joab, I just saw Absalom hanging in an oak tree. Aw. Joab, the man, said to the man who told him this, What? You saw him? Why didn't you strike him to the ground right here? Then I would give you 10 shekels. F. That is about 4 ounces or about 115 grams of silver, and a warrior's belt. Wow, so fashion accessory too. But the man replied, even if 1,000 shekels, that is about 25 pounds or 11 kilograms, so that's a lot more, were weighed out in my hands, I would not lift my hands against the king's son. In our hearing, the king commanded you, Abishai and Ittai, protect the young man Absalom for my sake. H. For you, a few Hebrew manuscripts, the Septuagint, the Vulgate, and the Syriac. Absalom, whoever you may be. So no matter who finds him, he's still my son, kind of thing. And if I had put my life in, and if I had put my life in jeopardy, or otherwise, if I had acted treacherously towards him, and nothing is hidden from the king, you would have kept your distance from me. Joab said, I am not going to lie in wait like this for you. So he took 3 javelins in his hand and plunged them into Absalom's heart while Absalom was still alive in the oak tree. And 10 of Joab's armor bearers surrounded Absalom, struck him, and killed him. Then Joab sounded the trumpet, and the troops stopped pursuing Israel, for Joab halted them. They took Absalom, threw him into a big pit in the forest, and piled up a large heap of rocks over him. Meanwhile, all of the Israelites fled to their homes. During his lifetime, Absalom had taken a pillar and erected it in King's Valley as a monument to himself, for he thought, I have no son to carry on the memory of my name. He named the pillar after himself, and it is called Absalom's monument to this day. David mourns, because he's a dad. So now Ahimaaz, Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said, Let me run and take the news to the king that the Lord has delivered him from the hand of his enemies. You are not the one to take the news today, Joab told him. You may take the news another time, but you must not do so today, because the king's son is dead. Then Joab said to the Cushite, Go tell the king what you have seen. The Cushite bowed down before Joab and ran off. Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, can't say it like the same way twice for some reason, said to Joab, Come what may, please let me run behind the Cushite. But Joab replied, My son, why do you want to go? You don't have any news that will bring you a reward. He said, Come what may, I want to run. So Joab said, run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain A, that is the plain of Jordan, and outran the Cushite. Ooh. When David was sitting between the inner and outer gates, the watchman went up to the roof of the gateway by wall. He looked out and saw a man running alone. The watchman called out to the king, and reported it. The king said, if he is alone, he must have good news. And the man came closer and closer. Then the watchman saw another man running, and he came down to the gatekeeper. Look, another man running alone. The king says, he must bring good news too. The watchman said, it seems to me that the first one runs like Ahimaaz, son of Zadok. He is a good man, said the king. He comes with good news. Then Ahimaaz called out to the king, all is well. He bowed down before the king with his face to the ground. Praise to the Lord your God. He's delivered up the men who have lifted their hand against the Lord the king. The king answered, is the young man Absalom safe? Ahimaaz answered, I saw great confusion just as Joab was about to send the king's servant and me, your servant, but I don't know what it was. The king said, stand aside and wait here. So he stepped aside and stood there. Then the Cushite arrived and said, my lord the king, hear the good news. The Lord has delivered you today from all who rose up against you. The king asked the Cushite, is the young man Absalom safe? The Cushite replied, may the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up to harm you be like that young man. The king was shaken. He went up to the room over the gateway and wept. As he went, he said, oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you. Oh, Absalom, my son. So he's in grief, as one would expect. Until the next video, friends.